Good morning on this Thursday, May the 13th, 2021. Let it be known we have another exciting show for you this morning. Dr. Robert Biko Baker is with us. He is the founder of Rock Software, which he founded in 2020 to help scale his efforts of putting cutting-edge technology tools and strategies in the hands of communities of color. We're going to have a great discussion with Dr. Biko this morning. But first, let us bring on our rodeo-bound president and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavis. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, our chair, Karen Carla Richards, and our whole board of directors. Actually, we're going to have a board of directors meeting this morning, and then I'll be getting on the plane heading to Phoenix for the Black Rodeo, sponsored by the Arizona Informant, Clovis Campbell, former chair of the NNPA, as well as a board member of the NNPA, and certainly outstanding paper in Phoenix, the Phoenix Informant. And they're sponsoring this Black Rodeo. It's an annual event. So I'm going out. I'm the Grand Marshal of the Black Rodeo. So I won't be riding any bulls or horses, but I'll be there to watch everybody else take a ride. And I'm so pleased that we got Dr. Biko, Dr. Baker on with us this morning. A great brother. I've known him for many years.
Absolutely, Dr. Chavis. And it doesn't surprise us that you'll be the Grand Marshal of a rodeo. It's nothing Dr. Chavis has not done and accomplished. So we are so grateful to have him as the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Dr. Chavis, this morning in the news, President Joe Biden's third slate of judicial nominations consists of 6 minorities. 3 are African-American women. All 6 of them are minorities, I should say. On Wednesday, Dr. Chavis, the president, announced his intent to nominate the 3 to the Court of Appeals and another 3 to the District Court justice seats. The president has now put forward 20 names for federal judicial vacancies, with at least half of the nominations being people of color or women. The White House said these individuals embody President Biden's commitment to ensure that his judicial nominees represent not only the excellence but the diversity of our nation with respect to both personal and professional backgrounds. So again, he's living up to his election, his campaign promise of diversity, Dr. Chavis.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, federal judgeships, these are lifetime appointments. So this is going to help change the judiciary irreversibly. And yes, he's keeping these promises, and he's doing right to get everything done in the first 2 years of his administration, because we got to make sure that we have a large voter turnout in 2022 as well as 2024, because there's a reaction out there. They plan to take back the repressive forces, the racially prejudiced forces, the forces of white supremacy. They plan to take back the Congress and even the White House. But we have an antidote to that, and that is to keep, even though they're having a lot of voter suppression in a lot of states across the United States, Stacy, we got to keep pressing forward. Don't lose hope. We got to keep putting that pressure on. Black lives still matter.
And Dr. Chavis, want to say congratulations to Jay-Z, Tina Turner, LL Cool J, and Billy Preston, each announced as 2021 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The ceremony will be held in Cleveland in October. LL Cool J and Billy Preston also will be honored for musical excellence, while 10 years after his death, Scott Heron will be honored with the Early Influence Award. So congratulations to LL, to Jay-Z, of course, Tina Turner, and the others. Big day for these individuals, and a big day for the hip hop community.
Absolutely. And Gil Scott-Heron is one of my close friends. We worked together. In fact, when I was in prison for the Wilmington 10, he put something about from Wilmington, North Carolina, to Johannesburg on one of his records about freeing Black political prisoners. Gil Scott-Heron, long live his spirit, long live his music and his legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Chavis, it's a big day tomorrow. Tomorrow is the deadline for HBCU students to apply for the Chevy and National Newspaper Publishers Association's Discover the Unexpected Fellows program. At the juncture of content creation and journalism, the DTU Fellows program is committed to bringing authentic voices and reporting into the realm of Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and other social media outlets. You can receive a $10,000 scholarship plus a $5,000 stipend, a 10-week internship working one-on-one with the publisher of the Black Press. You will gain celebrity mentorship at a Black-owned media company, establish a run run a social media channel for the newspaper. And once a month, the fellows will work with Chevy Marketing to create a Chevrolet EV or EUV content to be released on various channels. The deadline to apply again is tomorrow, and you can do so at www.nnpa.org/ChevyDTU. It's a great program, Dr. Chavis.
It's a great program. You know, we've had over a 50-year relationship with General Motors, and we encourage all of the young, aspiring journalists, particularly from HBCUs, to apply right now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Apply today.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it is www.nnpa.org/ChevyDTU. And also, Dr. Chavis, finally, this morning, the Messenger Awards is a part of the NNPA's National Convention, which takes place June 23rd to June 26th this year. We are encouraging folks to register now for the NNPA's National Convention. The Messenger Awards are sponsored by the NNPA Fund, and you can register at virtualnnpa2021.com.
Yes, that's right. That's great. That's great. And of course, we'll be celebrating the Black Press. And I checked with Norman Rich yesterday. A lot of people are registering. So we've waived the registration fee. It's free, but you need to register so you can be a part of our database. So don't put it off. Go to www.virtualnnpa2021.com.
Awesome. And so this morning, Dr. Chavis, we got another doctor in the house.
Yes.
Dr. Biko Baker, Robert Biko Baker, again, the founder of Rock Software. He founded it to help scale his efforts of putting cutting-edge technology tools and strategies in the hands of communities of color. Of course, Biko has done so many other things. So let's bring him on right now. Good morning, Dr. Robert Biko Baker.
How you doing? I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to be sitting here with you today.
Well, thank you, man. And we appreciate all the good work that you do to help uplift our people. And I've known you since the days of the Source magazine. So good to see you. And thank you for all of your leadership and your work.
I'm just trying to follow in y'all's footsteps. So I got a lot more work to do.
Well, Biko, can you tell us, first of all, a little bit about Rock's Software?
Yeah, so in the March of 2020, one of our clients received a big donation from the founder of Twitter to help get out masks for PPE to Black communities. His name is, I think he's one of your colleagues, Pastor Mike. And Pastor Mike came to my team and was like, we need this tool to distribute these masks. And what we saw very quickly was that our community was a little bit disconnected from data and technology. And over 6 months, we were able to help get over 300,000 masks to the hardest hit areas of the country. And since then, we've worked with the largest denominations in the country, worked with Kojic, the AMEs, the Black Church PAC, and have continued to grow. And over the presidential cycle last year, we sent over 2 million text messages to Black communities across the country.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned at the top, you know, Rock Software is just one of the things that you are well known for. You actually got you earned a PhD in history, Biko, but you have spent the last couple of decades working at the intersection of tech, culture, and social impact. What was the change there? Why tech at that time? I mean, you obviously worked hard for the history, the PhD in history, but then you switched.
Yeah, well, I was always sort of involved in tech at the back end. You know, I was one of those nerds that grew up with a computer. I was designing websites and other social media platforms for rappers such as Exhibit, and worked closely with Snoop. But what I was seeing was that there's enough brothers in hip hop. You know, we have enough producers and journalists, and the skill set that I had sort of developed on my own was much more needed. And in 2014, I was hired by a global software firm called ThoughtWorks to work with grassroots communities and some of their union clients. And something that I didn't know that I was that good at, but I developed a strong confidence and felt that my future was in technology and not in hip hop. Although I still love hip hop, and if you get me in the studio, I still might make a beat.
It's hard to argue with that, I'm sure. And speaking of hip hop, Biko, as mentioned, you did some work. You used to write for The Source, Vibe. Take us back then. And I know you and Dr. Chavis can talk a lot about that, but take us back to Vibe and certainly The Source, because The Source was really just that, the source of hip hop.
Yeah, when I was at UCLA, I spent half of my day writing for my professors, and the other half of my day writing for Dave Mays and Benzino. And it was a blessing. They first gave me the real short articles with the unsigned artists and the kids that are off the beaten path. And over 3 to 4 years, I ended up becoming a cultural correspondent and even editing, and had 2 or 3 cover articles. And, hip hop, Chuck D called hip hop the CNN of the ghetto. And, before social media, I was learning about what was happening all across the country through records. And in the early 2000s, we cannot underestimate the power of The Source magazine. It was called the Hip Hop Bible because everywhere you went in the world, people were tuned in and tapped in. And in 2004, 2005, I was blessed with the opportunity to interview Dr. Ben when he was working with Russell Simmons. And, he was so gracious. I was real nervous. I was like, here's this man who's been a revolutionary, he's been a scholar, he's been a leader of organizations, and he was so gracious and helpful. And, to me, he was one of the few elders at the time that understood hip hop. And so, man, it was such a life-changing event. And hopefully I can still have an influence on young people the way that the Source had for me.
Yeah. And certainly folks, Biko, remember Dr. Chavis from Belly.
That's right. Yeah. Nah. Rest in peace, DMX. Yeah. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. Hype Williams, great film, Belly, and my comrade who long live DMX and his spirit. Too many of our artists leave too soon, Dr. Biko. The thing is, I wanted just to say that this technology that you're into now is so important. We need to make sure that our young people learn how to code, learn technology. What advice would you give based on your whole career, Doc, in terms of access? Are we getting the proper education? Are we getting the proper training? Sometimes people just have to pull your coat and say, man, hey, you should try this out. Or sister, try this out. And I just think a lot of times the gateway or the pathway to tremendous success, particularly in the technology field, it needs to be open more and encouraged more. What's your feeling?
Yeah, we definitely have to knock more doors down in technology. Far too often, the rooms I go in are all white, mostly men. And unfortunately, many of the people that I work with have the same background I do. They understand technology, they understand a little bit of coding, and all they need is a little bit of pushing and prodding. And that's why I really believe that the Black church specifically has a big role. Yes. Many of our Black churches are behind the curve in technology, and we've been really hit hard because of COVID. But in every congregation across the nation, there's a young person who understands social media, understands how to use technology, and all they need to do is be given a chance. And our strongest institutions in our country continue to be the Black church. And so hopefully, instead of hiring a big, agency, you can invest in a young person in your community, give them a scholarship, help them get to the area technical college. And that the intuition that they have can be, really go deeper. And, I've run my own software company now for a year, and no one would have thought that when I had my pants hanging in the 90s.
Exactly. That's great, man. And well, how can people get in touch with Rock Software? Is there a website? How they want to reach you?
Yeah, our website is rocksoftware.com. And you can go on there and see our services. And in a couple months, I guarantee you're going to hear about the platform that we're getting ready to launch. We hope that it's in every church and every institution, every HBCU in the country. And we've already worked with Wilberforce on a really cool experiment, and we're working with the Medical College of Wisconsin and the National Institute of Health on another experiment. So hopefully by the end of this year, we become a household name.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, let us know. There's a close relationship between the Black press and the Black church. In fact, the Black press grew out of the Black church 194 years ago when Freedom's Journal was first published in New York City. And certainly, we definitely want to be aligned. The AME church publications that's a member of the NNPA. And so I'm glad you're working with all denominations. That's a great model. Let us know how we can continue to work together.
Well, I appreciate it. We'll be reaching back soon for sure.
And Biko, I want to segue a little bit. Dr. Chavis said at the top we talked about voting. You was the national executive director for the League of Young Voters from 2008 to 2014. Tell us about that and what you see today, as Dr. Chavis mentioned earlier, about all of the voter suppression laws that continue to come up in Republican states.
Whew, man, the voter suppression issue. And, I sometimes get in trouble because I talk badly about progressives or Democrats. And I don't do it because because I'm mad at them. I do it because they're my friends, and I've worked closely with them. But far too often, we've been left to the curb by both parties. And we've been ringing the alarm about voter suppression since 2010 in Wisconsin, once we saw voter ID laws explode. And, when I was executive director of the League of Young Voters, we worked hard to try to lift the word up. We had this program called Got ID that we really used to spread the message. And we had chapters all over the country, and we were one of the plaintiffs on a Supreme Court case with the NAACP in Texas. But unfortunately, we took our eye off the ball and we let the Voting Rights Act, expire, and we haven't done anything to push that even further. And so we're seeing in places like Florida and Georgia and Texas that the Republicans are going even deeper and harder than they ever have. And I understand why, because they want to win. And if they want to win, they gotta slow down the power of the minority vote and the women of color. But we got to fight back, and we have to use the power that we have at the state, local, and federal level to change the conversation. And if we think that people who have been trying to kill us and put us in jail and take our power from us are going to do that for us just because we want them to, we got another thing coming, and we got to fight. And I really encourage young people, particularly women of color like Latasha Brown and one of your colleagues in Chanta Jackson, to get louder and more vocal, because this is going to be a fight to the finish.
Yeah. And Biko, another thing too that's prevalent today, all these mass shootings, the gun violence. And I know that you mentioned Snoop Dogg earlier. You got with Snoop Dogg before, and Ron Conway, and you had this national anti-gun effort, No Guns Allowed. What you're seeing today, certainly, does that take you back to when you guys formed No Guns Allowed, and No Guns Allowed? Isn't that needed again?
Yeah, I mean, it's so needed. And in 2012, I linked with, as you said, Snoop Dogg and Ron Conway after Snoop launched a song with Drake called No Guns Allowed. And that song was really just an anthem. It was the first time that Snoop had ever done an anti-violence song. And it was like, let's put the guns down for tonight. And from that effort, we were able to mobilize people all across the country and youth organizations. And, Ron Conway, if you don't know, he is the angel investor of Silicon Valley, and he helped us raise a couple $100,000. But I think there's two conversations. We have the anti-gun conversation, and then we have the anti-violence conversation. And I think our communities really need to focus on anti-violence, because there's an anger and an attitude that I feel like only we can solve. We can't solve it with just legislation. And I think we need to invest in organizations such as Life Camp, and based with Erica Ford, based out of New York. And they have these programs called Cure Violence that I really think are a solution. And so, to President Biden's credit, he's advocated for a $5 billion investment in anti-violence organizations. And I'm working with a number of my clients to make sure that, Congress does right by us. They did so much with this 1994 crime bill that put so many of my colleagues and loved ones in jail. And it's time to repair our communities, and we cannot wait. We have to do it now.
Yeah, you mentioned Erica Ford, and Erica has done such great work for so long, and she doesn't look for any publicity. She just gets the job done out in New York, and we appreciate Erica on this program as well. Dr. Chavis, you can jump in.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with Dr. Baker that we need to work on anti-violence. Remember, back in 1995, that was the whole purpose of the Million Man March, was to get us to stop killing each other, to see ourselves as brothers and sisters. We're not enemies, no matter what color you may sport, or what side of town you may live on, or what hood you want to represent. We should all together, and this is 2021. Given after the devastation of what happened to George Floyd, caught on video, we know this is going on. We caught Rodney King in LA on video. These videos make a difference because it reminds us of our realities. These are not isolated incidents. It's part of systemic racism. And you're right, man. We got to not just reform. I was telling Stacy, I don't think you can reform lynching. I think we need to do away with lynching. And so much goes on in the criminal justice system that tantamounts to lynching. So we need to do away with those elements of the judicial system, of the justice system, that puts us disproportionately at harm. But also, your point, Dr. Biko, we got to work on our relationships with one another. We got to start treating each other as brothers and sisters, respecting one another. The hip hop museum that's being established in the Bronx, we're going to have a hall of respect because we want to engender respect for one another's gifts, talents, and gifts.
That's powerful. Respect. That's such an important word. You know, it's an underplayed word in our community. And at the end of belly, you know, that's the symbol of respect. And
yes,
you can do so much with young brothers by just telling, you know, little brother, I love you. You know,
that's right.
Hey, little sister, I love you. And you know, we think it's cliche, but it's not. And I think love is really the answer. We can't look for anybody else to love us.
That's right.
We have to love us. If we don't love ourselves first, nobody's gonna love us. And I know that in some circles that seems corny, but man, I've seen it work in my own life.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
You are coaching, and so you do reach people that way. Talk to us a little bit about your coaching.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Milwaukee is one of the few places in America where black men play soccer. And the reason for that is because the first African American to play in the World Cup in 1990 is from the housing projects, is blocks away from my house, and his name is Jimmy Banks. And when I used to go to the Boys and Girls Club as a kid, Jimmy put a lot of us together. And, you know, I actually went to college because I was good at soccer. And, you know, Jimmy passed 2 years ago, and I hope to live up to his reputation and you know, and all the coaching that he gave me. And I coach young men from all across my community, black men, Asian men, Latino men. And we be whooping up on these teams, boy. And, you know, a lot of our young men that we met at 12, 13, 14 years old are now getting soccer scholarships, becoming professional soccer players, and hopefully we'll get some kids in the World Cup. But America is not going to get to the World Cup until they get kids from the black community to play. And that's my whole goal in life, is to invest in young brothers. And, you know, I still go out in the streets and still on the front lines, but to get a young brother to run 5 miles at a practice for you is more powerful than I ever could do. It's the most powerful thing that I could ever do.
Yeah, and you mentioned something really interesting there in your commentary there, Biko. I found it interesting. Boys and Girls Club. When I was younger, we had the Boys and Girls Club. We don't really have that anymore. There may still be some existing. I know Denzel Washington put a lot of work into the Boys and Girls Club. You know, back in the early 2000s. I don't know if he still does, but I know he did a lot of work there. But talk about the importance of that in the community.
I mean, from 14 to 21, I mean, that's where I was at as just a kid in there playing pool, you know, hooping, playing soccer. And then, you know, Jimmy tapped me to be a coach. And, you know, I spent most of my life there as a young person. And it's such a powerful institution. And what happens, though, is these organizations go through cyclical funding. So, you know, one administration or one city government might have a big investment and the next not. And so, again, I really think we have to invest in our communities. And it's my goal as a technologist who's now starting to see, you know, our financial revenues grow to give back and invest. And we need more people to do that, man. The Boys and Girls Club changed my life. I would not be here. I'd been, I don't know where I'd be, probably in prison or dead, if not for just walking in that gym and getting to shoot basketball for the whole afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And last thing for me, Biko, you've done so much. You're an inspiration. What inspires you?
Well, I mean, to me, it's looking at the legacy of brothers like Dr. Bent, someone who was incarcerated and continues to give back and push, and still on the front line today. I think that you saying I've done a lot, but I don't think I've done enough, and so I got a lot more to do. And when I look at my elders in the community that have really in many ways given their whole life to the struggle, I know that I got a legacy that I got to live up to. And so one of my elders a couple years ago said my task is to make sure that Black men are heard, and so until we're heard, I'm gonna keep fighting.
Biko Baker, Dr. Robert Biko Baker, Rock Software. We really appreciate you. Dr. Chavis, final thoughts?
Yes, I'm going to deal with Dr. Biko Baker's name, Biko. We want everybody to remember Steve Biko, Black Consciousness Movement. And Dr. Baker, I think that we need a renewed Black consciousness movement here in the United States and throughout the African diaspora. You mentioned the importance of soccer. There's an African woman now who's over FIFA. And I think that whether it's music, whether it's entertainment or sports, our consciousness, how we talk about one another, how we respect one another, how we acknowledge one another. I just want to acknowledge, in my final words, your career. We all know that life is like a relay race. We all run to win, but at a certain point we have to pass off the baton. And our job in each generation is to make sure that the generation that we pass the baton of freedom fighting for justice and equality, that baton is not only held right, but we run in the right direction. So I'm encouraged by all of our millennials and Generation Z. I think we're in much better shape in 2021 than we were 40 or 50 years ago, but we got to keep pushing. I like your spirit, good brother. I'm glad to know you're still out there on the front line. And is there anything that we can do in the Black press to support what you do now in software development, in technology, working with the Black church? You can depend on the Black press. God bless you, good brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much.
Great. And Bobby Henry says, let's create the Black Press Club for boys and girls. Bobby, you do it. I'll sign up. Don't forget to register for the upcoming NNPA Virtual Convention, which takes place from June 23rd to June 26th at www.virtualnnpa2021.com. The registration, as we said at the top, is free. Great stuff coming up at the convention. Be there, register today, virtualnnpa2021.com. And also, don't forget, HBCU students looking for a career in journalism or just a scholarship. Apply now for the Chevy and NNPA's Discover the Unexpected Fellows Program. You're going to receive a $10,000 scholarship and a $5,000 stipend, plus some other great stuff. Register there or sign up for that. Apply for it at nnpa.org/ChevyDTU. Let it be known, creativity is intelligence having fun. We will see you tomorrow.